Good evening, and thank you for joining our webinar on breast cancer awareness brought to you by the African American Wellness Project and Merck and Company. For those of you who don't know, this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and African American Wellness Project is very invested in sharing information, tools, and resources about breast cancer. AAWP was founded by my dad, Dr. Michael LeNoir, and it's a nonprofit that works to address health disparities in the Black community. We provide tools, resources, and information so that you can achieve the best healthcare outcomes possible. We are a trusted resource and we are for us, by us. And our goal is really to allow you to be able to have all the information and tools that you need to be able to advocate for your best health. So tonight we're going to have a great discussion. We're going to share some information about breast cancer, and we are going to kick it off with our moderator and our host, Dr. Renee Matthews. Dr. Renee is actually an associate producer for African American Wellness Project. She is an accomplished healthcare professional and associate director with the AAWP. She has a diverse career that spans medical, education, media, and advocacy. Her contributions to health media include her work as a writer for prominent outlets like Essence, Ebony, Madame Noir, and also Good Enough magazine. Good Enough Mother, sorry. She's the host of Keeping It 100 and the medical contributor to the News Nation Now, and she's dedicated to addressing the health concerns for Black women. So I'm going to turn it over to her, and I know that she's going to be able to lead this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Monique. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the African American Wellness Project as we recognize Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We are honored to present tonight's powerful and inspiring program, The Power of Connection, Navigating Breast Cancer, Support, and Survivorship in Black Women. We put together a dynamic and insightful program featuring a panel of knowledgeable, courageous, and beautiful Black breast cancer survivors. We deeply appreciate their willingness to share their stories and empower others who may be navigating similar journeys. I have a few small facts that I think that we should know before we get started. Early stage breast cancer, meaning it has been localized within the breast only, has a 99% 5-year survival rate, which is why it's so important for us to catch it early. But there is an inequity to highlight. There is an overall 5-year relative survival rate for breast cancer diagnosis is 80% for Black women versus 91% for white women. Additionally, 52% of breast cancers in Black women are diagnosed at a local stage compared to 63% in white women. So Black women are about 40% more likely to die from breast cancer than white women. This isn't just a number, it's a call to action for fairness in health. I would like to welcome our panelists tonight. First, we have Tricshone Jiles. Tricshone Jiles is a healthcare professional with over 28 years of experience, and she is also a 2-time breast cancer survivor turned advocate. After navigating her own diagnosis, she founded Jiles Jewels Incorporated, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting survivors and promoting early detection in Jacksonville and surrounding communities. Through care packages, pampering experiences, and college scholarships, Tricshone ensures no one walks their breast cancer journey alone. A proud Jacksonville native, she holds a marketing degree from Florida State University and an MBA from the University of Phoenix. She is an active member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a wife, mother of 3 sons, and a proud grandmother. Her voice reminds audiences that early detection saves lives and that hope is always within reach. Next, we have Dr. Marie Borum. Dr. Marie Borum is a professor of medicine and director of the Division of Gastroenterology and Liver Diseases at the George Washington University. She earned her undergraduate degree from Princeton University and her medical degree from Rutgers Medical School, and both a master's in public health and a doctorate in education from George Washington University, where she also completed her internships, residency, and specialty training. She is board certified in internal medicine and gastroenterology. Dr. Borum is a member of the AOA Medical Honor Society and Delta Omega Public Health Honor Society. She completed the Leadership Development for Physicians in Academic Medicine program at Harvard University School of Public Health and the Hedwig Van Amerigen Executive Leadership in Academic Medicine Fellowship. She was the first African-American woman appointed as director of a division of gastroenterology at a university medical center. She's been involved in community outreach, numerous research projects, and the development of educational programs. Her research interests include health disparities, medical education, women's health, gastrointestinal, and hepatobiliary disorders. Dr. Borum has edited 4 textbooks and authored over 490 abstracts, 159 book chapters, and 159 peer-reviewed publications. She has delivered lectures at the regional, national, and international levels. She is a master of the American College of Physicians and a fellow of the American College of Gastroenterology, the American Gastroenterological Association, and the Royal College of Physicians. She has also been recognized as a top doctor in Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia, and across the United States. Dr. Borum, please share with us your story.
Oh, Dr. Renee, thank you so much. I didn't think you were going to read all of that. And
it was a lot. Congratulations.
No, I really appreciate that. But all of that is not significant when it comes to tonight.
Right.
I talk about breast cancer. And when I think about my breast cancer journey, both past and ongoing, there's so many things I think about. I think about all of my girlfriends who have breast cancer before me. I think of my girlfriends who have breast cancer at the same time I had breast cancer. I think of my friends who were diagnosed after me. And unfortunately, breast cancer is not uncommon. And because we all know what we've heard and what we read, breast cancer occurs in 1 in 8 women. 1 in 8, risk increasing with age. And we know it's the second most common cancer among women. We know it's the second most common cause of cancer death in women in the United States. And we know for Black women, it is the leading cause of cancer death. So I get my mammograms every 2 years. I got them every 2 years. We know the risks. We know that if you have a family history, we know if you've had certain kinds of radiation treatment, we know that if you had estrogen hormones at some point or got your menses before you were 13, or if you're overweight or you drank alcohol and you weren't exercising, all of those are risks. But I had none of them. I had none of them. So my journey started in a waiting room. And when I went to get my mammogram, I was there with other women. And at the facility that I went to, you get your mammogram and they give you your results. And so I'm sitting there with all of these other women who are all anxious. And I see women come and get their mammogram and be called in and told the results. I saw women come in before me. I saw women who came with me. I saw women who came after me that got called in. And then I began to think, I began to count, and I counted 7 women getting their results before me. And I said to myself, I'm number 8. I'm number 8. Like 1 in 8 women get it. And I was number 8. And I was scared. And I was hoping that it got caught early. I was hoping I would respond to treatment. I was hoping that I would be a long-term survivor. I had surgery, I had chemotherapy, I had radiation, I had every single thing that was offered to me. But the journey was not easy. I wound up having 4 surgeries. I wound up having a difficult chemotherapy experience. I wound up having radiation in the middle of COVID when people didn't want to give treatment. And it was a challenge, and it continues to be a challenge because my body is different. But I'm mindful of taking care of myself. I'm mindful of making sure that I get enough rest, that I surround myself with family and friends who are like family. My journey continues. And although I am told that I'm a survivor, you can't help but think about it every time you go to the doctor, every time you get follow-up, you think about it. And my journey will continue for the rest of my life, but I'm determined to live as a healthy life as best as I can. And my journey is like so many others. but it's something that I need to do, that I have to do, that I want to do. And it's something that I need to share and be there for others. And so I thank you for inviting me today to talk about it and to talk about all the other things that are on the agenda.
How many years have you been a survivor?
I was diagnosed in 2019.
Oh.
So it's been just about 6 years. It's been 6 years. Still on treatment, still get followed, but I think of myself as it being in the past and I'm looking forward. But breast cancer is a funny kind of thing, right? And so I just make sure that I do the best I can.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. And if anyone has any questions, you can use the Q&A or you could type them in the chat and we will try to get to them at the end. So next, Ms. Jiles, would you please share with us your story?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Borum, for sharing your story. Amazing. Just like you, I had a rough journey with breast cancer. I was diagnosed in 2013. I remember I was doing my self breast check, which I had done every month. I remember when I was 20 years old, my stepdad's sister was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 40. She was stage 4 when she had her first mammogram. And so she lived like a year after that because she was diagnosed at such a late age. So in the back of my head, I always knew that every month I needed to do my self breast check. So I remember doing that exam 2013 that February and noticed a lump. And so I immediately called my PCP and explained what I was feeling, went in for an exam. And at that time, I was told it's normal breast tissue. This is what it feels like when you have a lump. And I just couldn't put it out the back of my head because to me, I felt something, even though they couldn't feel it. And so fast forward, I was getting ready to turn 39 so, a few months later. So I was going for my regular annual physical OBGYN appointment, and I still had that lump that I felt a few months back. So I told my OBGYN, hey, there's a lump right here. Can you feel it? And she did my exam. She said, oh, no, everything's fine. And so then I was like, wait, okay, it may not be breast cancer, but what is it? So I remember blurting out, is it a cyst? What is it? And she said, well, I'm going to go ahead and order you a mammogram just to ease your mind. And I think that was the best decision for me because it saved my life. At that time, I was on the cusp of 39 years old. So normally I would not have had a mammogram until I was 40 years old. Had no family history or anything. So, if I had just said, okay, 2 doctors told me, normal breast tissue, I'm good, I would have waited until I was 40. But she was proactive and ordered my mammogram. And like Dr. Borum, I was sitting in there. I was so nervous because it was my first mammogram. And I remember just sitting there looking around. And when I went in, I had my mammogram, and I didn't know, what to expect when you get it done. So normally, if there's nothing, they'll just tell you, okay, we'll see you in a couple of years. But at this point, the doctor told me, well, the technician told me, Miss Giles, can you just wait a moment? The radiologist will be in to see you. So me, I didn't know what to expect. Um, when she came in, she told me they had found something that looks like calcification, which is little specks on the on the mammogram that could be non-cancerous, it could be precancerous, but they were gonna do what is it, a biopsy to determine what it was. So went back for the biopsy, and now it's my birthday. So I went, had a massage, and when I came out of my massage, I had missed calls. So I dialed the number back because it was the hospital, and surely they wouldn't call me on my birthday and tell me bad news over the phone. But I remember when she said, Mrs. Giles, I hate to tell you this, but you have breast cancer. And so at that moment, I was crushed. I just remember, I've, what if I had not said something? What if I had not advocated? And so, like you, Dr. Borum, I went through a lot of treatment, I went through chemotherapy, surgery, double mastectomy, radiation, year-long infusions, and I was in remission for a good 7 years. And I remember during my journey, I just looked around, and every time I had treatment or every time I went to the hospital, I saw people that were worse than me. And that fueled my passion for starting my nonprofit, Jiles Inc., which is a breast cancer foundation right here in Jacksonville that helps educate our community about, number one, advocating for yourself, early detection and prevention, and also giving immediate support to warriors that are going through treatment. And so that was in 2019 when I founded Jiles. But in 2021, I went in for they have this mark. Once you get almost to the 7-year mark, they call it your survivorship mark. And so you're moving from having all these tests that you have on an annual basis, all of the scans that you have on an annual basis, to go into this survivorship mode where you only get either scans or tests if you detect something or if you feel something. And everything was perfect. Went in for my blood work, best blood work I had had since I had been in treatment. But just a few months later, and it was right before COVID in December 2019, I felt something again in the same breast. And I remember saying, oh, I just had this good report. I'm fine. But still in the back of my head, I could not let it go. So I made an appointment that January. They did an ultrasound and biopsy and saw that it was a reoccurrence that came back in 2021. So, long story short, I went back through all of my treatment again. But I'm telling everyone all of this just because if you do your monthly breast checks on a monthly basis, you're getting accustomed to your body. You're learning the changes that you feel, the things that don't feel right. And when you feel something that don't feel right, you should be reaching out to your doctor immediately. And when you talk to your doctor, they're there to help, but you know your body. And so you need to advocate for the scans that you need, any types of biopsies, even if you don't have a family history like I didn't. And so I just want to just stress that part about advocacy. We have to be our own advocate. And last but not least, just be vigilant on your treatment. If you don't feel that you have closure when you talk to your doctor, you can always get a second opinion. And so it's very important to just make sure you stay on top of your health. So I thank you all for inviting me out to share my story, and I hope it does touch someone in a way that if you haven't had your mammograms or you're putting it off, that you might go out there and get one or even do your self breast check. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Tricshone. I don't see any questions yet. I guess somebody will send them if they see some, but I will just real quickly, I'll tell you, I thankfully do not have breast cancer, but I had a 36 years old. My doctor said, you should just get a baseline mammogram. I said, okay, fine. Cause I had this dream that by the time it was time for me to have mammograms, they'd figure out a different way to do it. Because I used to have 38G breasts before I lost 100 pounds. And I was like, no, 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 that's not going to be very pleasant. Well, they hadn't figured it out. So I said, fine, I will go. So 36, I went. It was no big deal. I was like, okay. So when I turned 40, I'm like, okay, we got this. No big deal. And I went and they called like less than 24 hours later. I said, oh God. So I called back and I had to leave a message. And the day is going and going and I still can't get in touch with this person. So I called a different number and the lady had an accent and she answered the phone number that I called. And I said, ma'am, I called you back. You left me a message. And oh, yes. And so I said, well, what's going on? And she said, oh, your mammogram, you need to come back in. And I said, why? I said, I am a doctor. Please just tell me now. She's like, no, no. I said, no, no, just tell me. She goes, well, it's incomplete. I go, okay. And I just so happened to be with two OBGYNs when I got this phone call. So I told them and they said, oh, you know what? That's common for people your age. I said, okay, fine. So we make the appointment for less than a week later. I go back in. And when I was in there, the tech was like, I was darn near doing flips for her to get to the back of my breast to do this. I was like, what is going on here? She finally goes, well, you know what they found is in the back. And I think she saw me go white as a ghost. I was like, what did you just say? I don't think I even said that. I just stood there and she goes, they didn't tell you. And I was like, no, they didn't tell me a thing. Well, they found something in the back. And so we have to re-image that. And that's what they want me to look at. She goes, but the good news is you're not going to leave here without results. I said, okay. So we did all that. And I went and sat in the waiting room and was just sitting there. And the nurse came and she just looked as chipper as could be. And I'm like, thank you, Jesus. And she takes me into the room. Okay, well, we have to do a biopsy. I was like, no, this is not happening to me. I was like, no. And she goes, good news is we can get it done tomorrow at 12. So I said, I'll take it. And so I get in the car to go home. And mind you, the hospital is only like 5 blocks from my house, but I was a little out of shape then. And so I call my mother in the car. My mother is a retired priest. But my mother's a worrier. But because she's a retired priest, I go, she got Jesus on the main line and we need his help now. I called her, was like, Mom, they found something. I have to have a biopsy. So my mother goes, well, you know, one of your aunts has cystic breast. So maybe it's hereditary and that's what it is. I said, well, Lord, I hope that's what it is. So the next day I went and I had that biopsy, which, as you know, was just not pleasant. Oh my God, that was just, I was like, this is awful. But I sat there and it was right before Memorial Day weekend. This is all happening. So the doctor was like, well, you will have the results before the holiday. So by Friday, we'll know. I said, okay, great. Well, Friday comes and I have not heard from anybody. So my mother keeps calling me. Have you heard from them? No, Mom. Have you heard from them? No, Mom. Did you call? Yes, Mom. So finally, the nurse calls and says, I have good news. I said, oh, my mother's going to enjoy her holiday. Thank you. And so it was just a calcification. And of course, they put a clip there so that any mammograms from now on, they're watching it. And so I was very fortunate, but yeah, that was my slight scare. And I was very thankful. And I, like you, I did breast exams in the shower. And because I actually, I had worked with an OBGYN in med school. And so she, I watched her do them and then I learned, and then she had given me this little thing to hang in my shower in college. I had one. And then when I moved, so I always had it. So I would do them and so I knew I had very dense breasts and I knew what felt normal in mine. So there was nothing I could feel, but what they were looking at was way on the wall and there was no way I would have felt it. So I was glad that I did have my mammogram and so I've not had any problems since. But yeah, it's very important for you to check your breasts and know them. I will say once I lost weight though, I don't know these boobs. And I'm very confused. I had a scare earlier this year. I thought I felt something and got the mammogram and it was nothing, but I was like, I don't know because it's not the way it used to be. So, but yeah, it's really important for you to just repetition. You'll get to know and it's very important that we teach the young girls so
Yes.
that they know, especially because, as you mentioned, you don't usually get mammograms until you're 40. So it's really important we teach them when they're, as soon as they start developing, because in Black women, what we didn't mention was that our breast cancers, unfortunately, are usually way before 40, unfortunately, and they're very aggressive
Mm-hmm.
when they get them younger too. So, I know actually off the top of my head, I can name 5 friends. One of them is no longer with us, but 5 friends that had breast cancer prior to 35.
I met one of my beautiful, I call her my baby sister, pink sister. She was diagnosed at 22. She passed at 30.
Oh,
And so, and I've come across so many women in their 20s
yes,
that are getting breast cancer. So we definitely need to educate our younger generation to do their breast checks and at least get a baseline if they have a family history.
yes, exactly. And if you have to, just like you said, advocate for yourself, you have to call the insurance company and say, and if you have to ask the doctor to also write whatever to get the insurance company to cover it, because that can become an issue, of course. I had a friend, like, well, actually it's two friends that aren't here anymore. She had breast cancer, and she had posted on Facebook about how she was fighting with the insurance company to get, her doctor wanted her to have an MRI of her breast, and they were fighting her tooth and nail about getting that done. And so we do have a question from the audience. I am young and I haven't started doing mammograms yet, but I'm concerned. Why is it that African American women seem to have worse outcomes than others? And what should I tell my friends? So one of the reasons I know that we have worse outcomes than others is because the horrible health disparities. You know, you heard Tricshone just say, she said, I feel something, and everyone was like, oh no. And that's what happened to one of my friends. She felt something. She was only 34 or 3. They said, oh, you're too young. And by the time it was diagnosed, she was stage 3. So that's one of the things, is that unfortunately we're never taken seriously. And like Tricshone said, and I tell everyone all the time on all of the different publications that I speak on, all the streams I do, please, we are quick to change a hairdresser. Please change doctors. If
If you
if they're
have
not
to.
doing what they're supposed to do, they're not listening to you, they're not explaining things where you understand them, change doctors. And go ahead.
No, I'm saying I just made noises because
No.
I agree with everything that you're saying. We know there are challenges in healthcare, right? There are challenges navigating the healthcare system, even when you're in the system.
Exactly.
Right. But there are challenges with being heard, right?
Mhm.
You need survivors who will listen to you, who will listen to your concerns, because you need, like you said, you need to advocate for yourself. When I found out I had breast cancer, I went back to where they said it was, and I could not feel it. My PCP could not feel it. My
Mhm.
surgeon could not feel it, but it was there.
Yeah.
Right.
And so you need to advocate for your breast screening and concerns. And you need, and if you're like me, someone who's had breast cancer, you need healthcare providers who care about your survival, right? You need someone who cares about you being well as much as you care. And I've become much more vocal. I mean, I'm a physician and I understand about listening. I understand about the healthcare system and I understand about navigating it. I am in the healthcare system, but I always did not get what I needed or what I thought I should have. And I've become much more vocal. So when you said you changed physicians, I've changed physicians. And I was open about changing physicians. And I said, we do not have the kind of relationship where I feel comfortable about being taken care of.
Mhm.
Or I've said to physicians, let's start again because I don't think you heard me. And I think that's what's so important, is that that is not being rude. That is about being about self-care
Right.
and about advocating. And I think it's important not only to advocate and to have information that is accurate from credible groups so that you can go in informed, so that people don't take you for granted. And if the physician is too busy, then you're too busy for them.
Right. And one thing I think I neglected to say was I was diagnosed with stage 3 at 39.
Okay.
And if I had not have had or advocated, I probably wouldn't be here today. So it's very important that, as we mentioned before, you advocate, you tell the doctors what you're feeling, and it's up to them to put in the paperwork to run those tests. And if you're not getting what you need, again, change doctors, get a second opinion. It's very
Or
important. Your
third
health is too
opinion.
important.
Yeah. And I
Yes.
also say, if your doctor is not encouraging you get a second opinion, or doesn't feel some type of way about you getting a second opinion, then you really need to think about finding another doctor as well. So you really have to, and if you can't advocate for yourself, please make sure you take somebody with you to the doctor that can.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if that means that they're on FaceTime or on, phone, speakerphone during your appointment because they can't physically be there, then that's what you need to do. But you have to make sure that you have somebody with you. And so I think I really feel like that's one of the biggest reasons why African American women have worse outcomes is because we're not being heard. And then I think the other thing is, unfortunately, we always are taking care of everybody else but ourselves. So I recently met a woman who had her first mammogram, and I want to say this lady was north of 60.
Mm.
So, and it was a Black woman. And so that's what I'm saying. We don't take care of ourselves. We take care of everybody else. And, this woman was a mother. She had children, and I'm sure her children had their checkups and everything. And they're probably wonderful adults now, but you have to take care of you too. Because if you don't take care of you and you're not here, who's going to take care of everybody? So we have to make sure that we go to our annual exams just like we're supposed to every year. And if the doctor says you need to follow up with this, then follow up with that. Don't, and I know other people that they got the mammogram and then they, just like me, they had to go back, but then they didn't go back for an extended period of time. And then they went from possibly a stage 1 to 3 or 4 because they didn't go back when they should have. So we need to definitely take care of ourselves. And I encourage you, if you're young, to please make sure that you do your self breast exams. And then also, do your self breast exams, and then also please make sure that if you have a history, talk to your family. That's the other problem in the Black community. We don't know our family history. So talk to your family and find out from them who had breast cancer, who might have had breast cancer, and find out what age, and these are all information that you can give your doctor, and they will determine if you can get your mammograms early or not.
Yeah.
So Tricshone, I know that Dr. Borum said, she was taking care of herself and healthy and everything. Did you feel like you were, like, what kind of shape were you in when you were, diagnosed with breast cancer?
I was healthy as well, never was on any type of medication. Did probably I exercise maybe 3 times a week, so moderate. No family history, but I think for me, I did have a level of stress during that time from work. And what I have read is that stress is a contributing factor to certain cancers that you could get. And so I would also say you need to make sure that you're limiting the stress that you're under because you can do everything else right. You can eat right, you can exercise. But if you are stressed out, that could definitely be a contributing factor.
And both of you could answer this. What advice would you give to someone who's newly diagnosed? Because like you said, it's 1 in 8. So it could be somebody watching us now.
I would just say make sure that you have a strong circle. Get the negative folks out of your ear because you need people that will pour into your life and into your ear and into your space, positive thoughts and just be there for you. But you don't need those people that are always negative or tells you, oh, such and such had it and they didn't make it. You don't want to hear that at that moment. What you want to hear is, how can I help you? What can I do for you? And all the things that you need to survive because you're going to be in a fight for your life and it's not going to be easy. And it's got what really is will make it or help you get through it is having that right circle around you.
I so agree. I mean, my support system is what got me through. And, sometimes people think that the support system is only important during certain stages. But for me, every single stage, including now, is so important. In the beginning, I think I was processing information. I didn't share much. I didn't reach out to friends. And I heavily relied on my family. But then you become to recognize as you accept your diagnosis and you start your journey, you recognize that journey is not going to be short. It's a long journey. I became open about how I was feeling. My sister friends, both survivors and those who never had breast cancer, were incredibly supportive. And they never left my side. And my male friends were just as similarly kind and generous. And they offered support, both practical support, care packages I wasn't expecting, books I didn't know about, outings between my chemotherapy sessions. They were just incredibly supportive, in addition to the daily uplifting phone calls and making sure that emotionally I was there. But I also will put a plug into support groups, because there are support groups that give information that's really important. There's support groups that will come with you or take you to appointments if you don't have someone with you right now. There are support groups that just are emotionally there or practically there, and they look at the incredible work that Miss Jiles is doing. Like, it's just incredible that you started this organization and that you're there, because there are angels like that in communities that you can lean on. There are angels there in Jacksonville. There are angels in communities in which you live. You can lean on them. You can help you survive. And then when you survive your journey, you can become one of those other support people who walk along the side of people who are newly diagnosed. And I think it's important, and I could not, as I'm on this side of my journey, underestimate what friends, family did for me, because it's scary. And I think it's important that you lean on the people that you can lean on. And because we as Black women have a worse survival rate, diagnosed at later times, have more aggressive disease, it's particularly important that we support each other. And I remember one of my biggest survivor friends, she had had breast cancer and ovarian cancer. And she would just come by every once in a while, because ovarian cancer, the survival rate is even less. And I remember her coming in one day, and I probably was not as happy or as comfortable where I was in my journey. And she just said, listen, I am not supposed to be here, but I am here today, and I'm here for you. And I'm here because I want you to continue to walk with me so we can be here for the next person. And it's incredible. It's just incredible, the people who are there and that we can lean on.
We have two questions in the Q&A. How did you ladies communicate your diagnosis to family and friends? I have a woman that I mentor, and she doesn't want her children to know about her cancer.
I'll go first. Well, I was very transparent from the start. I called my family. It was my birthday, and so my husband had family already there to surprise me. He had cupcakes and stuff. So everyone was already there when I came home with the diagnosis. So I told them at that moment that I had breast cancer. And at first, I felt like I wanted to keep it near to me and not share my journey with anyone. But as I started to think about it, I said, I probably do need to go ahead and share with friends and family because of the way I found my breast cancer. And so I started sharing, being very transparent on social media. And you wouldn't believe how many women reached out to me in my inbox and said, because of me being transparent, they took away their fear and went and got a mammogram. Or they would reach out to me and say, I have to go back for a second mammogram and I'm nervous. But then they would email message me back and say, okay, everything's fine. And so I say that because a lot of times you're going to be fine. Don't let that fear prevent you from getting your test, getting checked. And if you do by chance have breast cancer, if you catch it early, you have a better survival rate. And so early detection is the key. Get out there, take away all the fear and get your test. And if you can, if you feel comfortable, share. And for the young lady that doesn't want to share with her family, I really wish she would at least share with some in her family, if not many, because you're going to need that support system, as we previously mentioned. You need someone in your corner to help you get across that finish line.
Right. And there may be some people that are harder to share with than others, right? And maybe I had the hardest time sharing with my kids because my kids at that point were actually in college, and I didn't want that to change
Worry.
trajectory and worry.
Mhm.
I got diagnosed, and I remember we had a planned family vacation. And my husband wanted me to tell them before vacation, and I just didn't. I said, I'm not going to tell them before vacation. We went on vacation, we had a wonderful time. I didn't want that to be their memory of vacation, if in fact I wasn't going to have another vacation with them.
Mhm.
So I didn't share then, but then afterwards I shared. And understand that everybody takes the information differently and processes it differently. I think what you said before about being transparent was really important to me. I just was transparent with different people at
Mhm.
different times.
Right.
And I had to be transparent at work. I had to tell people that I worked with that I wasn't going to be there for a while.
Right.
And I needed people to do the things that I was normally doing. And I had to call the people that I worked with in my department to say that why I was going to not be there. And so once you tell the first people, it becomes easier to tell the next and the next. And then all the love and support comes to you.
Is there a noticeable delay between the time a Black woman is diagnosed and starts treatment compared to white women? And that would be an answer of yes. Sometimes that's part of the reason why our numbers are not as good as white women, is because we don't get treatment as fast. We don't, we find something and I mean, most people know nowadays it takes 10 years to get a doctor's appointment, unfortunately. And so some people will not push enough because you found something, you need to get in right away. But if they say, well, the first appointment is in 4 months. Some people take that and they're like, okay,
No, wait.
exact. And this is not a game. This isn't a good place to wait. Like if you find something, you need to do something about it now, because like Tricshone said, the earlier you find it, the sooner you could start treatment and better your survival rate.
And that mammogram can be ordered without having an appointment. You can leave a message with your PCP, your primary care provider, to say that, yes, I will take your next appointment, which may be 3 months from now, but I have a lump or I have a concern and I'd like a mammogram. And that can be ordered without an appointment, and should be.
That's good to know. I didn't really think about that.
Yeah.
To answer that question as well, I agree with you, Dr. Renee. I think once you are diagnosed, though, as long as you don't let the fear get in the way and you follow up with your doctors, go to your appointments, they're going to get you scheduled, and it'll be
Oh,
scheduled
yeah.
first because you have a whole stack of doctor's
Right.
appointments. But it's just that initial getting diagnosed is the issue, and getting heard and getting seen.
Another question. Do you advocate for germline genetic testing of family members when there's a family history of breast cancer?
For me, I had the BRCA test, the screening for to see if I had the hereditary gene for breast cancer. I did not have it. But what I did was I shared with the women in my family that it was negative. When you go see your doctor, let them know, especially my mom's sisters, my sister,
Right.
immediate family members. It's important to share with your immediate family members any type of diagnosis that you have. And so there is a screening that they can give you as well as your family members. And if you do have that hereditary gene, it's very important that they get screened as well.
And that's why it's so important that family members share, because you share and then all of a sudden you find that there may be other people that have something that they need to share within their medical history. And not only the BRCA gene, which is so critical when it comes to breast cancer, But when you have family members that may have different kinds of cancer, there is a whole panel of genetic tests that can be done that look for risk factors for many cancers at the same time. So there are certain genetic disorders where breast cancer is just one of the malignancies that you have risks for. And BRCA is one, and there are other genetic mutations that occur. So that's why it's so important to be open about what you have, because that sharing can save someone else's life also.
And the last question for the night, how do we reduce the stigma associated with cancer in the Black community? That's a hard one. I think we have discussions like this.
We talk.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And, transparency is wonderful because, here are survivors. So this, cancer is not a death sentence. You need to act quickly, though. You need to, you need to follow up, and you need to go to the doctor regularly. And, nothing in medicine is anything that you want to wait on. So if you go regularly and you're followed by a physician, you should be able to, you should be able to find whatever, detect it right away, nice and early. So,
And I think education is the key. Knowing what to look for, knowing the signs and symptoms, knowing how to reduce your risk factors is very important. So limit your alcohol intake, exercise more, knowing all the things that can help you combat or prevent breast cancer is very important. So it's really important for you to attend things like this, to share it with your family and friends. So plug for you all on the call, share this webinar with your friends and family, because you never know, it may just be that nudge for them to go and get checked or get seen.
yep. Well, thank you to our incredible panelists for sharing your stories and reminding us of how important social support is in breast cancer prevention, treatment, and survivorship. A big thanks to our sponsor, Merck & Company, for making this event possible, and to Dr. Michael LeNoir, founder of the African American Wellness Project, for his continued vision and leadership. We also want to recognize the AAWP team, Kamari Hawkins, program producer, Dr. Shonda Nicole Holsey, program director, Jennifer Young, our social media support, and Monique LeNoir, chairman of the board. Please share what you've learned tonight on social media to help us spread awareness, and your voice can make a difference. And as Dr. LeNoir always reminds us, your health is your biggest asset. Protect it. Thank you all. Good night. Oh, and lastly, panelists, please let us know how people can reach out to you, especially about Jiles Jewels. You have it on mute, Tricshone.
I'm so sorry, I
It's
put it on
okay.
mute. But you can find me on all social media platforms under Giles Jules on Facebook, Instagram. I have my website, gilesjules.org, where you can find any events that I'm having locally here. I do a lot of webinars as well, so you can do those from anywhere in the country. So just follow my page and find some new upcoming events that we may be doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm at George Washington University, do a lot of outreach, not only on breast cancer, but in other cancers and other health conditions. Feel free to reach out with anything related to health and wellness. And there's certainly breast cancer, which is something that is so close to me.
Thank you.